All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore a geopolitical thriller that could very well unfold in the frozen north, maybe as soon as 2026. It's a story with everything: superpowers, climate change, and a literal honest-to-goodness treasure hunt. This is the Greenland Paradox.
So let's get right to the central mystery here. Picture this: it's 2026, and a world leader isn't just negotiating a trade deal, they're trying to buy an entire country. And you have to ask, why? What's so important about this huge, ice-covered island?
Well, because the answer, and a prize that could literally shape the next 100 years of human history, is buried under 2 miles of ice. Ice that's melting faster every single day.
And this is where things could get really tense really fast. We're talking about a situation that could blow up and put the entire Western Alliance on a knife's edge. In this scenario, the first shot is fired on February 1st, 2026. The US doesn't bother with quiet diplomacy. Nope, it goes straight for the economic jugular, slapping Denmark with tariffs to force them to the table to talk about Greenland's future.
Denmark's public response would probably be fast and firm. You can just hear Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen saying it. Greenland is not for sale. End of story. But behind the scenes, the pressure would be unbelievable, especially as the US starts talking directly to Greenland's government, basically going right over Copenhagen's head.
Things could get so bad that just a few days later, NATO might have to step in. Imagine an emergency mission, something called Arctic Sentry, not to fight an enemy, but to stop two allies from tearing each other apart, all while trying to lock down what many generals already see as the West's biggest vulnerability in the Arctic. So what on earth makes this giant island of ice so valuable that it can actually fracture NATO? This question brings us right to the core of this whole situation: the Greenland Paradox.
And this lays out the conflict perfectly. On one side, you have an absolute global disaster. The ice is melting, sea levels are rising. It's a huge threat. But on the other side, that exact same melting ice is revealing an unbelievable economic opportunity. It's like a trillion-dollar treasure map is slowly being uncovered.
So let's just nail down what that means. The Greenland Paradox is this truly bizarre dilemma, where an environmental catastrophe, the melting of the ice, is the very thing that is unlocking incredible strategic and economic value. It's making minerals in shipping lanes usable for the first time ever. Now here's where it gets even more ironic. Think about this. It's a green versus green conflict. To build the very technologies we need to fight climate change, EV batteries, wind turbines, we need a ton of rare earth minerals. And where are they? In Greenland. To get them, we might have to tear up one of the last pristine environments on Earth.
So yeah, this paradox has basically kicked off a 21st century gold rush, with all the big global powers scrambling to stake their claim in the Arctic.
When you look at a normal world map, Greenland seems kind of remote, off to the side, but change your perspective. Look at the world from the top down, from the North Pole. And boom, the geopolitical truth just snaps into focus. Greenland isn't on the edge of the world. It's the strategic high ground, the absolute keystone sitting right between Russia and North America.
And what's underneath that strategic high ground? That's the jackpot. We're talking an estimated 1.5 million metric tons of rare earth element reserves. That makes it the 8th largest deposit in the entire world. These are the elements that make everything from your phone to an F-35 fighter jet work.
Okay, so let's break down the players in this great game. First up, the United States. Their win: total control of the critical Pacific airbase and exclusive mining rights. Then you've got China. They already refined most of the world's minerals, and they want a piece of Greenland's mines and access to that new Polar Silk Road. Then there's Russia. Their main goal is simple: keep NATO from expanding into their Arctic backyard. And finally, caught right in the middle of it all, is Greenland itself. They've got the ultimate bargaining chip, all those minerals, and they're hoping to trade it for full independence without losing the huge subsidy they get from Denmark. Now, a superpower trying to strong-arm its way into new territory might sound crazy for 2026, but if you look at history, well, it turns out there's a pretty clear playbook for this exact kind of move.
I mean, just look at the pattern. In 1867, the US bought Alaska from a Russia that desperately needed cash. Everyone called it Seward's Folly, a huge mistake, until they found gold and oil. Then, in 1917, the US bought what are now the US Virgin Islands from Denmark because they were worried Germany would grab them first. And the modern blueprint? It might be the Chagos Islands model, where you get military control with a long-term lease without having to deal with full ownership.
This all points to what some people are calling the Panama Canal playbook. It's a strategy where a superpower doesn't buy a country outright. Instead, it helps a region get its independence from a colonial power, and in return, it gets permanent control over something vital, like a canal, or in this case, a massive island full of minerals. A lot of analysts think this is exactly the move the US is signaling with Greenland.
And that brings us right to the heart of it all, the 57,000 people who actually live in Greenland. They're the ones who are now staring down an impossible choice about what their future is going to be.
And this chart just shows you how deep that conflict is. A majority, 56%, they want full independence from Denmark. But look at this other number. Almost half of them, 45%, say they would actually reject independence if it meant their standard of living would drop. That is a tough, painful choice between sovereignty and security.
And can you imagine being the person trying to navigate this minefield? That's Greenland's Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen. Right now, as all this is happening, he and his government are literally writing Greenland's first ever constitution, trying to find a path forward while being squeezed by their own people's dreams and the demands of superpowers. Which leaves us with this final massive question. A question that every single person in Greenland is probably asking themselves. If it were you, if you were one of those 57,000 residents, what would you choose? The familiar safety of staying part of the Kingdom of Denmark? Or would you roll the dice on the incredible wealth you might get by becoming a protectorate of a superpower? The choice they make could literally redraw the map of the 21st century.